completes those questions. We now come on to business questions. I call the Shadow Leader of the House, Lucy Powell.
If the Leader of the House will give us the business for next week.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The business for the week commencing the 29th of January will include, on Monday the 29th of January, second reading of the CPTPP Bill Lords. On Tuesday the 30th of January, remaining stages of the Media Bill. On Wednesday the 31st of January, motion to approve the draft Electoral Commission strategy and policy statement, followed by a motion to approve the draft Social Security Benefits Uprating Order 2024, followed by a motion to approve the draft Guaranteed Minimum Pensions Increase Order 2024. Thursday the 1st of February, the general debate on miners and mining communities, followed by a debate on a motion on freedom and democracy in Iran. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. On Friday the 2nd of February, private members' bills. The provisional business for the week commencing the 5th of February includes, on Monday the 5th of February, remaining stages of the Finance Bill.
Lucy Powell.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and thank her for the business. Can I first pay tribute to the sad loss of Lord John Tomlinson, who served as an MP, MEP and peer for over 6 decades. He was a formidable force, an effective campaigner, and our thoughts are with his family. With Holocaust Memorial Day this weekend and ahead of the debate this afternoon, now more than ever, we must never forget the horror of the Holocaust and other genocides. Mr Speaker, it's now been over a month since the publication of the House Commission's proposals on risk-based exclusions of Members of Parliament. Can I thank you, Mr Speaker, the Leader, the Commission, staff and unions for all their work thus far? When will the Leader bring forward a motion on this important issue? It was first promised before last summer and then before the end of 2023. The Commission is in agreement, the proposal has wide support across the House, and others are looking on us to take action on the culture in this place. While we're on the topic of culture in Parliament, I'm sure the Leader of the House will join me in welcoming the recommendations of the Joe Cox Foundation report on civility in politics. There have been some exchanges in this place recently, which I know have caused offence to others, and where we're not modelling the good behaviour we should. Will she join me in reminding members of this and that this Parliament should be the exemplar of respectful and cordial debate? We really saw the House and politics at its best this week with the moving, heartfelt, cross-party tributes to Sir Tony Lloyd. He reminds us that we can have strongly held, differing views while remaining dignified and respectful. The Procedure Committee has now published their report into common scrutiny of Secretaries of State in the House of Lords, which I welcome. I commend the committee on their work, and we will shortly be hearing from the Chair, the member for Staffordshire Moorlands. The Leader has reassured us many times since Lord Cameron's appointment that he would be forward-leaning. And she promised, and I quote, when the Procedure Committee bring forward those measures will be put in place. So can she confirm that she will lay a motion forthwith to ensure Lord Cameron comes to the bar of the House to answer questions and statements as the committee recommends? The next FCDO questions are on Wednesday. It should be before then. Despite war in the Middle East, conflict in the Red Sea, Russia's ongoing illegal war in Ukraine and the Venezuelan threat to Guyana, the Foreign Office has failed to meaningfully update Parliament on these international flashpoints. They've only offered 2 statements since November, Mr Speaker, with you having to grant 10 urgent questions on these matters instead. It's just not good enough. We've had 3 weeks of ad hoc business statements to bring in emergency and urgent legislation. The King's Speech legislative programme, announced just 2 months ago, has almost run out. And with all the unused parliamentary time, there is no excuse for ministers not coming to Parliament or getting on with their day job. We've had another week of ministerial failure and Secretaries of State failing to show up. No Secretary of State speaking on steel. Today, or during the week, Mr Speaker. It's insulting to those steel workers facing redundancy. And take education. We had no Secretary of State showing up on that either. She's had no legislation for months, yet the racking school shambles drags on, and now we understand the much-needed flagship childcare policy is in chaos. So can she shed more light on this? How many parents of 2-year-olds who qualify and take up the offer of free childcare in April will not be able to access it? And will the rollout to 9-month-old babies go ahead this September as promised? Ministers seem unable to give these assurances, and providers are clear the government's flagship rollout is a sham. Another week goes by with a failing government which has run out of road, out of ideas, and failing to deliver on its basic promises. This is now the verdict of those opposite as well. The Prime Minister's own pollster, having concluded they are not providing the bold, decisive action required, and that the Conservatives, and this is his words, not mine, are heading for the most almighty of defeats. Many agree. So can she just put everyone out of their misery and get on and call a general election?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I would like to thank all colleagues who will be marking Holocaust Memorial Day this week and particularly taking part in the debate later. It clearly has additional significance this year. Can I also join the Honourable Lady opposite in paying tribute to Lord John Tomlinson? I thank her for her tribute. And could I also send my deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Sir Graham Bright, former member for Luton East and Luton South. He served this House and his constituents for 18 years, including being John Major's PPS. And he is perhaps best known for his private member's bill, the Video Recordings Act 1984, that required all commercial video recordings offered for sale or hire within the UK to carry a classification. Legend has it that during the passage of the bill, he had to explain to the Prime Minister of the day what particular acts performed on camera warranted particular ratings. Given that the Prime Minister at the time was Margaret Thatcher, this alone would have warranted his knighthood. Many colleagues have spoken very fondly of him over the past few days, and he will be much missed. Can I also thank 2 delegations to Parliament this week, the families of Leary Albag, Elia Cohen, Idun Stevie and Ziv and Gali Berman, 5 of the many hostages still held in Gaza. We must not rest until they are all home. And the Ukrainian delegation, to whom I conveyed our deepest respect and solidarity for all they are doing to protect our freedom. Can I wish President Zelensky, Zadim Narodzina, and all in the House a happy Burns night. Turning to the Honourable Lady's points, she speaks about the work the House of Commons Commission, on which we both sit, has been doing on exclusion of members of Parliament that are considered to be a risk to others on the estate. She will know, because she is on the Commission, as she says, we agree with the proposal that has been brought forward. We were waiting on a motion to be brought to us by the House. That has happened, and it happened late last week, and we will very shortly be tabling that motion for members to see and bringing it forward. She mentions the work that the Procedure Committee has done on my noble Lord Cameron, the Foreign Secretary. Again, I thank them for their work, and the Honourable Lady opposite for the evidence that she gave to that inquiry. That has been received by us this week, and we will very shortly be responding to it. I hear her plea to do it before next Wednesday. Actually, she should have said next Tuesday, because that is when the next Foreign Office questions are. I would also like to join with what she says about the work that the Joe Cox Foundation has done through the Commission. It is very important that we protect democracy. We all know that democracy is under attack, and civility in politics is incredibly important, demonstrated, as the Honourable Lady has said again, in the form of the late Sir Tony Lloyd. In that spirit of the Commission's recommendations, let me deal with the charges that she has made against our record, but also the charges that have been levelled by Labour against our Prime Minister. Our Prime Minister is a man whose migrant parents made sacrifices to ensure that he could have a good start in life. He worked hard to make best use of every opportunity he was afforded. He studied hard, he pushed himself. He had many career options, but he chose a life in public service representing God's own country. He protected this nation and livelihoods from the greatest financial and health crisis since the Second World War. He has risen through hard work and courage and determination to be this country's first British Asian Prime Minister. He has shown global leadership on many challenges facing this country. He's a wonderful dad. He gives quietly to charities. He runs for his local hospice. He's a cricket fanatic. He still attends home games at the football clubs he supports despite being Prime Minister and despite it being Southampton. He is a shareholder in 3 community pubs and patron of Leyburn Brass Band. He doesn't just get Britain, he represents the best of Great Britain. The greatest things we have to offer and what they mean to the world and our values: hard work, enterprise, taking personal responsibility for yourself and helping others. He is in no way confused about where his duties lies. You won't find him taxing education or denying others the opportunities he has had, or voting against strengthening our borders, or siding with militant trade unions against the public, or compromising our energy security or our nuclear deterrent, or opposing the deportation of foreign criminals, scratching his head about the monarchy, ducking difficult issues, or supporting the Right Honourable Member for Islington North. If the Leader of the Opposition is a weather vane, our Prime Minister is a signpost. He knows what he stands for, he knows where the country needs to go, he's got a plan to get us there, and that plan is working. Further business will be announced in the usual way.
Which brings me to a slightly difficult one. Bob Blackman is meant to be representing the Back Business Committee to tell us what that's going to be. Unfortunately, he's not here, so I'll now go across to the SNP spokesman, Deidre Brock.
And may I associate myself with all the remarks about Holocaust Memorial Day, and also ask the House to note that today is Burns Night, when we celebrate the work of Scotland's great national bard. A new year, a new Tory civil war, just what the UK needs. Talk of doom loops, massacres and extinctions. If only her party had listened to her the last time she wooed them for leadership. She warned them that if they voted for the former Chancellor as leader, it would, quote, murder the party. Now, I know that the leader is furiously busy with all her Minister for clickbait responsibilities. Those anti-Scottish articles and sneering videos don't write themselves, Mr. Speaker, but as her government grinds, punch-drunk and exhausted to an election, shouldn't we debate some of the key legacies of the last 14 years of Tory rule? Where to start, Mr. Speaker? There are still these scandalously unresolved scandals like infected blood, waspy women and Post Office Horizon, to name a very few. But has the leader had time to reflect on recent comments from Sir Michael Marmot, the Professor of Public Health at UCL? He said about Britain in 2024, we're now starting to suffer from Victorian diseases again. Britain has become a poor country with a few rich people. It is now worse to be poor in Britain than European countries. Poor people in Britain now have a lower income than poor people in, for example, Slovenia. Or perhaps cast your eye over the latest Joseph Rowntree report, which reports more than 1 in 5 people in poverty in 2021-22, with about 6 million in very deep poverty that same year. Not managed it yet? Unsurprising, perhaps. The Tories opposite seem genuinely untroubled by poverty in the UK. My colleagues and I have asked them many times about it, and their eyes just glaze over. Comfortable, I guess, with the choices they've made, as the PM has said. Perhaps, though, we should start with our Tory legacy, Tory legacy debates with an emerging threat. The Electoral Commission chair warned recently her government's strict new rules on voter ID risk excluding certain voter groups and leave the Conservative Party open to the charge of bias. Now, I and many others have thought for some time this was simply an attempt at voter suppression from her government. So, does she agree with her erstwhile cabinet colleague that the new Tory rules are, as he put it, simply an attempt at gerrymandering? And will she bring a debate on this important issue to the House before the next general election?
Well done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, what a bunch of rotters we are, and our anti-Scottish articles. It appears that the Honourable Lady is planning to follow in the footsteps of many a great Antipodean election guru by this brilliant new strategy to equate the criticism of the SNP's performance with criticism of Scotland itself. The latter is a landmass of approximately 30,000 square miles, populated by brilliant, creative, stoic people. The former is a ramshackle separatist movement full of people who have turned maladministration into an art form. There is just one tiny flaw in this new political tactic from the SNP. If we Conservatives dislike Scotland so much, for some reason the Honourable Lady never gets round to explaining, why on earth would we strive so hard to keep it part of the Union of the United Kingdom? Why would this Conservative government give Scotland the largest funding settlement it has ever had? Why would we have offered its citizens who were waiting for NHS treatment additional help and options, which the Scottish government turned down? If I wanted to do Scotland down, Mr. Speaker, I would join, donate and campaign for the SNP, who I might point out to them that the trailblazer for bringing back Victorian diseases to Britain is Glasgow. Watching the Honourable Lady's in action and her party is like watching your much-loved neighbourhood being clobbered by a bunch of gangsters. Let's call them the hole-in-the-budget gang. Hitting businesses, taking your cash, making your life a misery and keeping the local police force very busy. This new political strategy from the SNP, like everything else they do, will fail.
Part of the House, Sir Peter Bottomley.
Can I ask my right honourable friend if she will ask the Secretary of State to make a statement next week on instructions to the advocate for his department at the Select Committee on the Holocaust Memorial. Yesterday, on a number of occasions, the leading advocate said that the design had not been awarded to Sir David Adjaye or that he wasn't the architect. Can I refer her to the press notice on the 24th of October 2017, when the Department and the Cabinet Office say Sir David Adjaye and his team are going to design it, where the then Secretary of State said congratulations to David Adjaye, when the Mayor of London said the same thing, and when Sir David Adjaye was quoted as saying, "This is architecture as emotion." I believe the advocate may have inadvertently said things to the committee which are clearly contradicted by the facts 6 years ago and every other quotation until Sir David Adjaye became a name that couldn't be mentioned. Could you please ask the Secretary of State to consider making a statement to correct what was said to the Holocaust Memorial Committee, Select Committee yesterday, and perhaps also give some acknowledgement to the 4 Holocaust survivors who gave evidence and see what they said?
Well, can I thank my right honourable friend for again raising this very important issue. He was very diligent in doing so, and I understand that he is limited in the forums that he can raise these issues, which is, I'm sure, why he brings it to the floor of the House each week. He has got those points on record, and his thanks to those survivors and their important intervention. As the Secretary of State will not be taking questions until the 4th of March, I will again make sure that he has heard what the Honourable Gentleman has said.
I'm very grateful, Mr. Speaker. Stratford Village Market in my constituency has provided spaces for over 60 much-loved, independent, local businesses to ply their trade since about 1974. These are the kinds of businesses that reflect the entrepreneurship, the drive and the diversity that is Newham. But on the 10th of January, with no warning at all, the traders received an email telling them that the village market was closed with immediate effect. The company that owns it is going into administration, leaving viable, much-loved businesses in limbo, out of pocket and without a home. I want to thank our AM, Umesh Desai and Newham Council for their work on this so far, and I do hope that it bears fruit. But I know that many similar communities have faced similar problems. So could we have a debate in government time on whether our councils have the resources and the powers that they need to effectively be able to step in and save much-loved local spaces, much-loved local businesses when this kind of thing happens?
Can I thank the Honourable Lady for her question and her very helpful suggestion for a debate. I'm very sorry to hear about the situation in the Honourable Lady's constituency. Quite often these markets are a stepping stone for many businesses to getting additional premises of their own. I know that the Department for Levelling It Up and the High Street team in there have been collating good practice about where other people have faced these situations, and there's some good examples of what local authorities and other groups can do to ensure that continuity. As question time to that department is a little way off, I will ask officials in that department to contact the Honourable Lady to see what more can be done to assist.
Theresa Villiers.
Can we have a debate on the government's massive expansion of free childcare so we can really scrutinise progress on delivering it to make sure people can access it, to tackle workforce shortages, and also to ensure that the initial stages of implementation go as smoothly as possible in April and September?
Can I thank the Right Honourable Lady for her question and just remind the House that we had an urgent question on this matter on Monday. We are rolling out the single largest expansion in childcare in England's history, ensuring that working parents receive 30 hours of free childcare a week, starting at 9 months all the way up to their child starting school. And she will know that we've increased hourly funding rates with a 204 million cash boost this year and more than 400 million next year to support the childcare sector delivering this. But I know honourable members would want to follow that progress very carefully.
Wera, Hobhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 5th of January, Bath received a red flood alert warning, the highest alert warning, meaning the risk of life. Fortunately, thanks to good management of local agencies and the council, no life was lost, but the damage was still substantial. Yet my council was told it was not eligible for funding through the flood recovery framework because not enough properties were flooded internally. And yet that is no comfort to flood victims or the council, because the clean-up operation and the repair to external damage is still very substantial. My council has still not received any information from the government. Can we have a statement why certain council areas are actually excluded from the funding through the framework, what the thinking is behind it, how they can be supported, and what else the government can do to help councils who have been substantially damaged by flooding?
Well, the Honourable Lady's question affords me the opportunity on behalf of us all to thank all those emergency services and others who have been working to protect our communities through snow, floods and high winds in the last few weeks. I'm sorry to hear the Honourable Lady hasn't had information through from the relevant department. I did write last week on a similar matter about eligibility criteria, and I will make sure that the Honourable Lady gets a copy of that answer from the department, and I will raise again, as questions is not until a couple of months away, I will raise the issues that she raises with the Secretary of State.
You are.
Sir Jay.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could you want for any better evidence that the mandate for the COVID inquiry is already out of date than hearing serving and former cabinet ministers, and in fact a former Prime Minister's evidence about the origin of the COVID virus being ruled as out of order? So let's have a statement from the government about updating the mandate for the COVID inquiry 2 years on from when it was set up, so it can properly deal with the origins of the disease, the efficacy of both the vaccine and lockdowns, and the huge NHS excess debt we are having. This is an inquiry that has to serve the people of this country and the victims of this terrible disease, and it is already out of date.
Well, my right honourable friend raises an extremely important point, and some of the issues he raises were not in the original terms of the inquiry. Even if it is sits outside the work of that inquiry, the questions that he raises are very legitimate questions, particularly for our national security. And so although it may not be possible to change the terms of the current inquiry that is looking particularly at the government's response to that situation, I will certainly raise with the Cabinet Office the issues he raises which are related to national security.
Dame Diana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's Thursday, so it's another question on contaminated blood. As the government have had the recommendations from Sir Brian last April 2023 on what compensation should be paid, and we were told repeatedly that the government were working at pace to be ready for the original November announcement of the final report, can we now please have a statement from the Minister about what progress has been made since last April to update the House, so we can see that the work at pace is actually happening?
Well, I thank the Honourable Lady for, again, diligently raising this matter. I met with the Paymaster General yesterday to get an update on progress on this. Progress is being made, and I know that the Paymaster General will want to come to the House and make a statement on that, and I know that he will do that as soon as he has something substantial to say. But I can assure the House that I hope knows my interest in this area, that he is working to ensure that justice is served as swiftly as possible.
David.
Some time ago, the Scottish Government refused an instruction from the Information Commissioner to publish written evidence from the Hamilton inquiry into the conduct of the former First Secretary Nicola Sturgeon. Last month I attended the Court of Sessions in hearing about that, at which the Scottish Government was humiliated at great public expense in their attempt to reject the request. Despite a unanimous ruling against them of the highest civil court in Scotland, the Scottish Government still refuses to release that information. This extraordinary behaviour would appear to be in breach of the Ministerial Code, the Civil Service Code, and indeed the rule of law. So can I ask the Leader of the House, is the rule of law in Scotland at risk, and can we have a debate and a statement on this matter?
Well, can I thank my right honourable friend for raising this matter and the disturbing issues surrounding it. Although there is a debate about whether the court decision is binding or not, or binding in a particular way, we consider it to be a matter of accountability to the Scottish Parliament. And I am sure that the Scottish Parliament will be asking questions of their government in relation to these very serious matters which my honourable friend has raised today.
Barry Sheerman.
Deputy Speaker, can I inform the Leader of the House that we already have a Holocaust Memorial Centre at Huddersfield University in the heart of Huddersfield, and we do hope, I think all members, that the new Holocaust Memorial Centre here in the heart of Westminster will happen soon. But am I right in believing that an illustrious ancestor of hers, Raymond Postgate, wrote a book called The Common People? And is she aware that their common people in my constituency and up and down the country are being dreadfully exploited by Rachmanite-type landlords? They are being given a miserable life with rack renting, letting bedrooms off. Every room in the house is a bedroom. It's a scandal what's going on in the rented sector. Can we have a debate on this?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman. I learn something new every session. I have to say I shall have to investigate the first half of his question. But he is absolutely right to raise the plight of tenants who are in either unsuitable accommodation or are exploited by their landlords. The Secretary of State for Levelling Up has done an enormous amount of work on this issue, both in terms of building quality, but also ensuring that tenants are protected. And I shall make sure he has heard what the honourable gentleman has said today.
Dr. Theresa Coffey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Energy national policy statements are really important impact on my constituents of Suffolk Coastal. And I wonder if my right honourable friend would find time for a debate. Now, I'm very happy with I'm grateful to her officials and her PPS for finding some information in advance of this. I know that the statements were laid before Parliament on the 22nd November, and then in a written ministerial statement, it was declared that they had been approved by Parliament. Now, I'm new back to the backbenches for after many years, but I do remember that the government in the past had laid a resolution before this House, and I participated in that debate on the 18th of July 2011. I don't believe we've had a debate on these particular ones, and I'd be really grateful, even if we've gone past the legal deadline, to actually still be able to have that important debate.
Well, I thank my right honourable lady for raising this question. The Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero made a written ministerial statement on the 22nd of November presenting the 5 revised energy national policy statements for parliamentary approval. She deposited copies of all of these documents in the libraries of the House, and they were available on gov.uk. The attached letter, she also sent a letter to all members on the 9th of January highlighting the scrutiny period of the MPS, and following the expiry period of 21 days. She has no objections were received, and the Secretary of State designated them on the 17th of January. So I fully appreciate that whilst all the I's have been dotted and the T's crossed, the Honourable Lady may feel, and other members feel, they have not had chance to discuss these or offer their opinions on them. The Honourable Lady knows how to apply for a debate, but I will certainly make sure the Secretary of State has heard her concerns.
Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I was pleased to hear this week that the UK Government has recognised the funding pressure on local councils in England and confirmed that there will be Barnet consequentials. However, we can only hope in Scotland, and as a keen follower of the problems that we have with the Scottish Government, the leader will be aware that it's probably a forlorn hope that the Scottish Government will use the consequentials to cover funding gaps in our local councils and speed up repairs to mould and damp in social housing, which is becoming a critical problem. In Edinburgh, we have a housing crisis, and even as we speak, my council and others across Scotland are trying to figure out how to fill the gaps that the Scottish Government have left. I was, however, disappointed that there was no clear mention in the statement about how they were going to enforce measures to promote AWAB's law to improve social housing. So I wonder, could we have a statement on the steps the Government is taking to enforce these new rules, if only to provide a template for the Scottish Government on how one can support local councils?
Well, thank the Honourable Lady for her question. She will know that the Secretary of State for Levelling Up at the last oral questions has highlighted that it is local authorities have been given the chance to take 100% of the receipts and right to buy and invest them in social housing. We have provided a very good funding settlement to the Scottish Government, at least 20% more funding per head than the UK Government spends on the same things in other parts of the UK. But we know that the Scottish Government, more often than not, does not pass this funding either to local authorities or, in the case of support for businesses, to those businesses. That is a very sorry state of affairs, and if we could rectify that, we'd have a much better chance of dealing with the issues the Honourable Lady raises.
Sir John Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As T.S. Eliot opined, time present and time past are inseparable, for we are what we remember, who we've known, where we've been, what we've done. So when dementia robs people of those precious memories, as it does for 850,000 people, their lives are diminished. Dementia often comes with age, and with age comes other conditions like arthritis, which affects 1 in 6 people, or diabetes. So can we have a statement on the Government's major conditions strategy to ensure that that strategy is holistic and takes account of the fact that many people suffer from multiple conditions?
Well, can I thank my right honourable friend for raising this very important matter. The Health Secretary will not be answering questions until the 5th of March, so I shall relay to her the honourable gentleman's interest in this area. He will know that part of how we can combat these particular major conditions is through research, and he will know particularly in dementia care we have from 2010 onwards had several research missions to arrive at not just the fantastic new drugs that we have, but also to make the connections between the other conditions and dementia that he outlines. It's a very important matter, and I thank the honourable gentleman for raising it.
Justin Madders.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I was recently contacted by a constituent who'd been unfortunately caught out by an online scam involving Google gift cards. Fortunately, they got their money back, but Action Fraud decided not to investigate. It then turns out on further investigation that the number of fraud cases being investigated has gone down by a third at a time when online fraud is rapidly increasing. So can we have a debate, please, on what more we can do to make sure that the online world is actually safe from these scamsters and fraudsters?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear what his constituent went through, but very pleased that they managed to get their money back. We have had the latest figures out this morning for the crime survey of England and Wales, and I'm pleased to be able to report to the House that fraud has decreased by 13%, with notable reductions in advance fee fraud, 33%, and other fraud, 40%. And I know that the actions that the police are taking and the other agencies that support them on this matter is having an effect. As I say, we have a plan and it is working.
Dean Russell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I share condolences as earlier with the family of Sir Graham Bright. He was incredibly kind to me in many years as a candidate and gave great support and advice. Madam Deputy Speaker, I've been robustly raising concerns of residents of Kites Drive in Watford for many months now regarding a planning application, including bringing a petition in Parliament with regards to one part of that, which was about the long-term use of the site to make sure it was going to be suitable and used only for people who were veterans, people with disabilities and older people. I'm pleased to say that whilst making sure that the Chief Executive Anchor heard the residents' concerns, I've had a small win, which is a long-term win, which is that Anchor have agreed that they will pursue a local authority lettings agreement which will prioritise people with disabilities and veterans and other vulnerable people in their housing needs. So could my right honourable friend just advise me on how I can best encourage the Council to take that offer up, although I appreciate she may not be able to comment on planning specific issues. Thank you.
It was a lengthy question, Madam Deputy Speaker. I could hear you coughing, but the answer will be short. I think the honourable gentleman has provided his own answer. He has got that on record, and we would all encourage the Council to act as he wishes.
Ian Paisley.
Much, Madam Deputy Speaker. The government flagship policy on a generational ban on tobacco sales is something which has many health benefits, which the Minister will no doubt be aware. But is the Minister alarmed that that policy will not apply to Northern Ireland, because it will be frustrated by Northern Ireland being subject to the EU Tobacco Products Directive, and even if there was a Northern Ireland Assembly in place, it could not trump that directive. I'm going to ask, will the Minister ask for a statement to be made on what is more important, the health of all of the people of the United Kingdom or tobacco policy as outlined by the EU?
Well, my honourable friend will know that one reason why we want to get the executive re-established is to ensure that the people of Northern Ireland are able to make decisions related to themselves, and I think that principle also applies to the point the honourable gentleman raises. I will make sure that the Secretary of State for Health has heard his concerns. We have previously stepped in and made interventions in the health space before as a UK government, although I note that there would be difficulties with regard to this particular EU directive. I think that is something that the UK government should think long and hard about.
Holly Mumby-Croft.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my right honourable friend will know that this week a debate was held on steel, in which members on both sides of the House raised concerns and questions, particularly in relation to the UK's ongoing ability to make its own virgin steel. This is an incredibly important issue and there's much more to say on it. Would she support a debate on government time so that we can discuss it further?
Well, can I thank again my honourable friend who is so diligent in the work that she does, not just speaking up for steel producers, but also the users of those products. And it is incredibly important that we retain these sovereign capabilities. I know she takes every opportunity in this chamber to champion those issues, and I'm sure that she will be applying for another debate on this matter, and my office stands ready to assist her in that.
Chris Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I bring the Leader's House's attention to LED motion 204, and I ask the House to recognise my register of members' interest regarding the industrial dispute in the pensions regulator service, which has now reached its 50th day, because the pensions regulator is offering a pay rise lower than the UK government's pay guidance. So can we have a statement or a debate on the government's pay review guidance and what actions can be taken against those agencies who don't comply with it?
Thank the honourable gentleman for raising this matter. He will know that the next chance to question the Secretary of State on this issue, it will be on the 5th of February, and I would encourage him to attend those questions.
Philip Hollowbone.
News from Kettering, where 16 mature street trees have been saved from the chop. Gypsy Lane, Kettering, is one of the older and most attractive roads in Kettering, but there's going to be a 340-house development at the end of the road, and under the original planning application, 21 very mature trees were due to be chopped down to facilitate access. But thanks to the proactive engagement of Councillor Jason Smithers, the leader of North Northamptonshire Council, and the developer Places for People, the good news is that 16 of those trees are going to be saved. Can we have a government statement on the importance of keeping mature street trees wherever possible? They're attractive and they're good for the environment. And will she praise the leader of the council and Places for People for the decision they've taken?
Well, good on the honourable gentleman, good on Jason and all the residents that supported their campaign. I will certainly make sure that the Secretary of State has heard that his work has been triumphant and encourage him to make a statement as he suggests.
Mary Clinton.
Deputy Speaker. The DWP Permanent Secretary claims that his department is making good progress in dealing with its staffing crisis. However, the PCS union has obtained figures for the year up to last November that show while the department recruited 8,495 new staff, there were also 8,031 leavers in that year, far short of the aspiration to recruit 5,000 staff per quarter. Could the Leader of the House seek clarification as to the true state of the staffing crisis at the department and what action is being taken to accelerate the recruitment drive?
Well, I'm always here to assist the House and honourable members, but the honourable lady can bring this up with the Secretary of State directly on the 5th of February.
Anna Firth.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. At my last constituency surgery, I had the pleasure of meeting the outgoing member of Southend Youth Parliament, the amazing Matty Faulkner Hatt. Maddie raised with me the alarming statistic that the number of eligible pupils claiming free school meals drops by 26% when they leave primary school, from 77% down to 51%. Given that figures from the House of Commons Library confirm that the number of eligible pupils is, of course, the same, please can we have a debate in government time on what more can be done to make sure every eligible pupil is encouraged to take up their free school meal at all stages of their education?
Can I thank my honourable friend for taking the time to meet with Maddie and thank the Youth Parliament that have made this their campaign focus for this year. She will know that around 2 million pupils are currently having free school meals, but of course we are doing much more as well during outside of term time with our holiday activities programme and food programme. About 200 million is invested in that every year. But I thank her for raising the matter, and she will know that the next education questions are on the 29th.
Helen Morgan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. At the beginning of the month, I had a meeting with a veteran who came to my advice surgery who was gay, and in what was a genuinely upsetting and moving meeting, he described the profound impact on his life of having lived in fear of being convicted and in a genuinely horrifying homophobic environment at his work, Now, we've had a statement and an apology in the House, which is welcome, but we haven't had a debate in which the voices of the LGBT veterans can be heard and their compensation scrutinised. So please may we have that debate in government time, because this is a very important issue.
Thank the honourable lady for raising this matter, and I'm sure that many members would want to attend such a debate and she will know how to secure one. Last week, another honourable member raised the issue also of those that were serving in particular parts of our armed forces or our intelligence agencies who were unable to give evidence to that particular investigation because of the nature of the work that they were doing. So I think there are still some unresolved matters that need an airing, and I would encourage her to apply for the debate.
Andrew Slew.
The government have quite rightly given local authorities additional money this year to fix potholes, which are dangerous to cyclists, can cause really expensive bills for motorists and make neighbourhoods look really unsightly. So will the government look at requiring councils to publish what repairs they have done in which roads each month in an easily accessible format to aid scrutiny and accountability, so residents can see what is being done with their money?
Well, my honourable friend raises a very important point and makes a very good suggestion. The waters are often further murkied by the local authority working with contractors, so they pass the money to them and then it's very hard to keep tabs on how it is being spent. And we know that in certain parts of the country, potholes are not being filled in, despite the local authorities been given money to do that. By the 15th of March of this year, the government will require local authorities to publish a plan of how that extra money is being spent, and thereafter quarterly reports summarising which roads have been resurfaced. The honourable gentleman reminds us that that has to be in an accessible form. Honourable members need to be able to see it. Our residents need to see it too.
Alice Strathern.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Residents in the new town of Wixham have been waiting nearly 15 years now for GP surgery. Despite 3,000 families now having moved into the town, there's still no sign, with many having to drive over 14 miles for routine or emergency appointments. I know, sadly, though, they're far from alone across the country in facing this challenge. Will the Health Minister make a statement on how we can do more to get much-needed primary care provision into areas of high housing growth, and how we can reform the system to make sure these types of challenges can't be allowed to happen again?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this matter and would encourage him to raise it also with his local commissioners. They will be responsible for those capital plans, and if he hasn't already done so, I would encourage him to do that. I will also make sure that the Secretary of State for Health has heard what he has said today, given that her questions are not until the 5th of March.
Ianici.
Madam Deputy Speaker, this week Diana Princess of Wales Hospital in my constituency has opened its new accident and emergency facilities, which will enable patients to be able to get to expert clinicians sooner than they have until recently. The building was backed by £4.4 million worth of government funding. Would the Secretary of State would the leader accept us having a debate about the amount of infrastructure that the NHS has actually built since the last election, recognising what is happening with the amount of investment and the beneficial effect it's having on patients?
Well, I thank the honourable lady and congratulate her on what she has helped secure for her constituents. This government is investing record sums to upgrade and modernise NHS buildings so staff have the facilities needed to provide world-class care for patients, including over £9 billion in this financial year, totalling over £25 billion over the spending review period. These are incredibly important investments and not only often increase the capacity in places like her A&E department, but are often designed with the staff that will be working in them so that they are really set out in the best way they can deliver good care. And I have to say, in some cases for the first time, facilities for those members of staff to actually enjoy a break and sleep when they need it.
Tricia Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In response to me on the 11th of January,
the Leader of the House told this House that people in England pay lower taxes than people in Scotland and that her government had delivered a balanced budget. Now, last week, I asked the Leader of the House to correct the record, since both of these things are untrue, which she refused to do. The House of Commons Library has now confirmed that no UK government has delivered a balanced budget since 2000-2001, and that this government does indeed pay the equivalent of £318 million every day in debt interest, while the Scottish Government must, by law, deliver a balanced budget every year, and also confirmed that the majority of people in Scotland, the majority, pay less tax, including council tax, than they would if they lived in England. So, and I can share this information with the Leader of the House if she wishes to see it. So I ask again, will the Leader of the House make a statement correcting the hugely inaccurate information that she gave to this House on the 11th of January?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her question. I was very careful in the figures that I gave the Honourable Lady, and I stand by them. They are completely true and factual. In addition to the OBR, we are very open and don't mark our own homework on this front. Perhaps before next week, the Honourable Lady might like to read what Audit Scotland have said about her own government's performance.
Dr Matthew Offord.
2 million grandparents do not have contact with their grandchildren, and conversely, the amount of children that don't have contact with their grandparents is even higher. So given these large figures, it's likely that every single constituency in this House has someone suffering from this condition. Now, next week there's an exhibition in the upper waiting hall. It's a quilt of love and hope made by grandparents who are estranged from their grandchildren. But can we have a statement from a minister on whether the government will consider amending the Children's Act 1989 to give grandchildren the right to a relationship with their grandparents when they are blocked from contract, mainly as a result of breakdowns in parental relationships?
Well, I thank the Honourable Gentleman for raising this very important issue. Not being able to see a grandchild can often be heartbreaking for grandparents, but also it is an experience that the child misses out on, and we know the incredible value that grandparents can bring to their lives and upbringing. While grandparents don't have an automatic legal right to see their grandchildren, they can try and secure access through an informal arrangement or via a court order. And I would suggest to my honourable friend that his questions and very helpful suggestion he might consider raising with the Secretary of State for Justice on the 20th of February.
Charlotte Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last Friday marked a full year since the Joint Committee on the Draft Mental Health Bill published its report, setting out a series of important recommendations to improve the rights of people with mental health problems detained under the Mental Health Act. In that time, there have been 51,312 detentions under the Act, according to NHS statistics published this morning. Despite repeated promises, we've still not had a response from the government, who will only say that we will get an opportunity to debate any bill when parliamentary time allows. So will the Leader of the House please allow parliamentary time as an urgent priority for this vital legislation to protect some of our most vulnerable constituents?
The Honourable Lady for raising another very important matter. She will know that we do have a draft bill, and although it was not in the King's speech, when parliamentary time allows, if the legislative programme allows, we will consider bringing that forward to the House. I shall make sure the Secretary of State has heard what she has said, but she may be interested to know that I've also been speaking to the legislative team at Number 10 and also with officials at the Department for Health about measures that the bill would have helped. We still have a number of people in inappropriate care settings. There have been subsequent reviews initiated by this government, starting with Sir Stephen Bubb's Winterbourne review report, to mention just one, about people with either mental, learning or behavioural disabilities. Everyone ought to be in the right setting and being looked after. And if we are not able to bring forward legislation, I know the Secretary of State will be looking at ways that we can practically make that happen.
Alexander Stafford.
Speaker. This government has done more than any other in history to bring jobs and opportunities, and especially manufacturing opportunities, to areas like mine in Rother Valley. So much so that unemployment in Rother Valley is now only 2.8%. You should also know that South Yorkshire now is the UK's first investment zone, which will bring 8,000 new jobs, many of those high-quality manufacturing jobs, and leverage £1.2 billion investment to Rother Valley's doorsteps. To celebrate this and the opportunities and wealth brought to everyone in the country and the increase in manufacturing jobs in Rother Valley, can we have a debate in government time on this massive uptick to local economies in the country?
I congratulate my honourable friend for all the work and all the success that he has been having in his constituency. This is very good news indeed. And all the employers, the business community and everyone that has helped deliver this incredible progress. I'm sure that he knows how to apply for a debate and I'm sure and I hope that many other members across this House would also have similar good news stories to tell if such a debate were to take place.
Richard Ford.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the market town of Honiton that I represent, youth sports groups have been struggling because of inadequate sports facilities. This is true for at least 3 clubs, certainly football, gymnastics, rugby clubs. I've visited all of these youth sports groups. Having healthy, active children is not just a responsibility for schools. Can we please have a debate to discuss how local authorities can be encouraged to identify space for young people's sport?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman. This is a very important matter. It's important for health, it's important for mental health, and it's also important for the economic regeneration quite often of particular areas. He will know that the next questions to the Secretary of State on this matter, his next opportunity to raise it will be on the 22nd of February, but I shall make sure that she has heard his concerns and ask her to get her officials to contact the honourable gentleman to offer him some advice.
Louis French.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Leader of the House will be aware that despite being bailed out with over £6 billion by the government, the Mayor of London has continued to plead poverty at every opportunity and seeks to deflect blame to the government for his many appalling failures to keep Londoners both safe and London moving over the past 8 years. Given the Labour Mayor of London has now suddenly found over £500 million behind his sofa for pre-election giveaways, can the Leader of the House please confirm how members can have a debate on both the powers of the Mayor of London and how we can seek an audit of his financial mismanagement of government and taxpayers' money?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for this question. I understand his concern and why he is raising it. I noticed from the BBC London News this morning that he is now going back to the government to ask them to bail out the black hole that was discovered last week in the Met's budget. This is despite a £6 billion bailout being given to the Mayor, plus him increasing the Mayor's Council tax 71% since he was last in office. I would suggest that we might like to, in that debate, consider his spending plans, which has seen £30 million given to unions to avoid his 140th strike on his watch on the transport network. A similar amount spent on increasing staffing costs, 57% rise in the mayoral office costs and a 33% increase in press spending. 10 million for the Metropolitan Police to determine what their personality type is. £1 million of free advertising on lingerie and vaginal moisturiser, believe it or not, honourable members, and £5,000 of taxpayers' cash for Transport for London's staff's junk food, despite banning junk food adverts on the tube. This is what Labour do in power, and we all know what we need to do if we don't want this to continue.
Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I learnt to swim at Withington Baths. It's a lovely Edwardian... indeed, yes, the Shadow Leader of the House also learnt to swim at Withington Baths. It's a lovely Edwardian building in the heart of Withington. When the coalition cuts hit Manchester so hard around 10 years ago, the council was forced to transfer the ownership to a community group. Under their leadership, the leisure centre has gone from strength to strength. And last week they celebrated the completion of a highly successful heritage refurb project. I wonder if the Leader of the House would join me in congratulating the board and volunteers of Withington Leisure Centre, and perhaps we could have a debate in the House to recognise the work of volunteers and community groups in running local facilities.
What a fabulous good news story. I do join the honourable gentleman in congratulating all of them. Honourable members will know this is a subject close to my heart. I have gone above and beyond to save my local Lido, which this year will also be undergoing, thanks to the Levelling Up Fund, a huge heritage refurbishment. But these things would not be possible without an army of volunteers standing first to ensure the community asset transfers occurred, but then also helping run those facilities and helping the community really be engaged. What a wonderful story. If the honourable gentleman does manage to secure a debate, I shall come and listen.
Rob Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It will shortly be 25 years since the establishment of the Welsh Assembly. So it's been 25 years of 60 Senedd members stealing a living from the taxpayer while delivering zero identifiable benefits for the people of Wales to explain their existence. At Welsh Affairs Select Committee recently, the Secretary of State for Wales was unable to even name 3 benefits of devolution when I questioned him. In 1997, the Labour Secretary of State for Wales in this place said that devolution was a process, not an event, and should be continuously reviewed. So, can the...
I think the honourable gentleman needs to be careful with his language when he uses the word stealing. He might want to reconsider that.
I apologise, Madam Deputy Speaker. The members of the Senedd may be questionably obtaining a salary for not doing a great deal amount of work. Maybe a better way of putting it. I wonder if the leader could confirm which government department should be doing the reviews of devolution, when the last one was, and if we can have a debate on whether the people of Wales are happy with having devolution at all.
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for raising this. The answer to his question is it is the Minister for the Constitution whose remit will cover these matters. But I think that the problems he is raising are really related to the performance of the Welsh Labour government. It is I think it's the longest period of time that Labour have been in power, and you can really see, given the state of the NHS and the other things that they look after, what a blueprint for a Labour government would really look like.
Jim Shannon.
Madam Deputy Speaker, and it is indeed a pleasure to bring issues to the attention of the Leader of the House and this House. This time is a good news story. In light of the recent progress in Pakistan in relation to education of religion, a heartfelt thanks should be given and must be given to the Federal Minister of Education and Professional Training for developing the inclusive curriculum on religious education for grades 1 to 12 on minority religions in Pakistan. Will the Leader of the House enable the FCDO to monitor this situation as it unfolds? Unfortunately, not all is good news. To bring back the spotlight on the situation in Tibet, where Chinese repression continues to be applied, committing human rights violations, especially against Buddhists in Tibet. Will the Leader of the House join me in condemning China's repression of Buddhists and their right to have their religious views in Tibet? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I thank again the honourable gentleman for bringing to the House's attention these very important matters which would not otherwise get much airtime. It is nice to have some good news, and it does show the difference that particular ministers can make under very difficult circumstances, and I'm sure the whole House would join him in his congratulations of that particular gentleman. And I would again join him in condemning China's repression of Buddhists in Tibet. I know that on both issues that he raises, the Foreign Office will be monitoring the situation closely, and I thank him again for raising them.
Scott Benton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. For new patients, finding an NHS dentist in Blackpool is sadly impossible. It is estimated that 40% of my constituents, some 35,000 people, can't currently access NHS treatment. Every single week I have constituents attending my surgeries pleading with me to get them the treatment they so badly need. Only last week a mother attended my surgery who had to physically remove the teeth of her 6-year-old daughter with pliers because she was in so much pain and couldn't access the treatment her family needed. As the NHS dentistry recovery plan is long overdue, would it be in order for the House to receive a ministerial statement on when we may finally see some progress on this issue?
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the situation in the Honourable Gentleman's constituency. I happen to know from recent meetings with the Minister responsible for this area that she is doing a lot of work, and I know that she will be keen to bring that to the House's attention in short order. He will know that the government has given considerable uplift to local commissioners to ensure that providers are in place. From memory, 50 million, I think, at the start of last year. I know the Minister is very interested in what commissioners have actually done with that money, as it was flexibly given. It was not ring-fenced, but it was specifically given for dentist treatment. She is looking into that matter, and I will be very interested to see what the answer is in the Honourable Gentleman's constituency.
I thank the Leader of the House for answering the business questions, and we now come to the